in the building, and it's something that we wish all the family all the best, and to my colleagues in Vromi, much support and strength as we continue to move forward, as Michael really supported us in doing. So thank you for that, Madam Chair, and with that, I yield you back the floor.
Thank you, Minister Gumbs, and that would also be my question regarding elucidation on the VNGI. That will also be provided
in writing
later on. Thank you, Minister, and I see that MP Irian, you wanted to add something.
Thank you, President. I think that the minister maybe have my question confused regarding the schedule, because you're referring to the schedule of, let's say, the main roads, and I'm referring to the schedule of the side roads, because you mentioned the airport project and asphalt and Point Blanche. I'm referring specifically to the side road project, because you're also referring to, let's say, Wimmer Roads, but Wimmer Roads isn't the only company that has the contracts for side roads. So I'm again asking if the schedule for the side roads can be published and keep the public up to date. Also, can it be sent to us in writing, obviously? And at the very least, the list of roads that's in order. So your priority list in terms of the roads that are up next. And you also, I'm still very confused, Minister, and I don't know, you're not answering very directly the question regarding the 1.2 million guilders. You said that there was a letter of intent by a minister to give the land. Just you could just nod if that's correct. And then after you plan to issue it, isn't that then a new issuance? Because a letter of intent doesn't mean that it has been issued. Intent isn't the same of actually issuing the land out or deeding the land out. So I'd like some clarity on that. And then you just never mention if it's part of the budget or not. Like they consistently refuse to mention if it's expected to be collected for 2024 or not. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Irian. MP York, you have something to add, and then we have MP Doran as well. MP York, firstly, before the minister responds to the questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Minister, for your elucidations thus far. I had two follow-up questions. One in particular as it pertains to the monuments. You alluded to the fact that the prior administration you didn't feel in your prior function that you had the necessary follow-up that was needed at the time. But my question was, what are you planning, through you, Madam Chair, planning to do? What is the minister planning to do with this case moving forward, and with future cases, or to mitigate future cases moving forward? That was more where my question was aiming towards. And next, finally and not least, the St. James Estate. I understood that you said you're going to be picking up, you took contact with GB, and upon response from GB, you'll be able to elaborate more. But I don't believe the question was answered. Maybe I missed it. If St. James Estate is still on the list, and if it's on the list, averagely when, if it's top of the list, bottom of the list, middle of the list, if it's on the list. And okay, I have another question. Last question. To differentiate the difference between the resurfacing project and the side road project. I think in your previous answer, you alluded to the fact that Women Roads has to be on the airport, and you get digging now and then to get other roads done, but that's pertaining to the asphalt works. If I'm correct, MP Irian, he alluded to the concrete works, and that's Women Roads as well as other contractors. So I understand that exact dates cannot be given. There are too many factors where that are concerned, but tentative or strive datums where you guys would like to get it done. Things can change, people understand that, but I think the residents of those roads that are on the list would appreciate something to look forward to, whether it's in the close or near future, far future. I think that would be enough for them, not exactly exact date to say the 12th of the month or the 11th of this month. Yes, so those would be my questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP York. MP Doran.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. The 2 points I have are based on the quick responses that the minister gave. So through you, these are my 2 points. Basically, if I have to be home listening to the radio and hearing this broadcast or seeing it online, I would assume that basically the government of St. Maarten is being held hostage by Windward Roads. The reason why I say that is because they're not doing voluntary work. At the end of the day, it's on them to regulate their workload. These bids were done early this year. They know that they won the bid before I left office. All these discussions were had in negotiation, even preliminary discussions on priority roads. So to listen here today on October 16th, to listen to the minister say that we have to see because, you know, the airport and they have a lot of work to do. If I'm Windward Roads, I'm sitting down with my legs crossed now because, okay, we don't have no rush. And we have to be careful when bringing things across. I mean, it's not my job to advise the minister, but I just would hope that the minister would take more of an approach as to, I will do everything in my power to get it done ASAP and really pull up, as they will say, Windward Roads to get the work done. Because at the end of the day, what you're going to have is that we're going to roll over into next year, and there's going to be a lot of delay, which happened already with us in the past. And I hope that we don't repeat the same things again. Also, I would like to get some clarity, Madam Chair, because I don't know if the minister said that the intent and the decree was signed in 2007 or 2013. I would like to know which year the minister mentioned and who minister and or commissioner signed these water rights that were never issued. And lastly, the point of it, the intent being signed and it not being deeded, Minister, please don't insult our intelligence. Once something is not signed, it is a new issuance. It's no ifs, no buts, no maybe about it. You can't take a made brief to the bank. You have to carry a deed to the bank. So I know there's a lot of wordplay taking place here, but I would just like to get some clarity on that so that we know how to move forward. Thank you for the points, and I look forward to the clarification.
Thank you, MP Duran. MP York.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand through my colleague and with the minister that there's I think, a misunderstanding in what happens when it comes to scheduling of these works. Given my prior function, I've been on the other side of the, I would say, of the room when it comes to receiving orders and having to execute. I think moving forward, what would be more conducive to the totality of the works, basically, is if the government signs a contract today with whichever contractor for X amount of works, that if government does not have an idea on when they want to execute those works, that in the contract stipulates, hey, if it's January, look out for us sometime around July, look out for us sometime around November again, in the further execution of the phases of the work. So give a phased out contract. Because if we sign today as a contractor, right, and today is January, we execute the first road. After that, if you or if the government does not know when they want to execute the next road, that contractor will move on and continue with their daily works. And if, for example, government were to come after 3 to 4 months or 6 months afterwards and say, hey, we're ready for the next phase, that contractor is not sitting down idly by waiting on whenever government is ready. And that's where you get the combating scheduling. So that's where sometimes it'll be like they don't have the time, whereas it's a scheduling issue. So I think when it comes to transparency and forward thinking when it comes to signing the contract, before you sign the contract, the government has an idea when they want to execute the works. That way, the contractor can also plan this and schedule the year accordingly.
Sorry, thank you, MP York. MP Otley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, to the Honorable Minister of Rummy, I'm going to give some questions, but you can send these in writing if it's all right.
Thank you very much.
Okay. But I definitely need this answer, especially considering the Honorable Minister's answer to my previous question. I definitely need the Minister's point of view. And I want to ask him specifically, based on him concurring with him being the minister supposed to be over GEBE, according to the ordinance. I'll ask you these questions. Why did GEBE, number one, opt to purchase 20 individual generators, 1 megawatt generators? Are these engines currently running on heavy fuel? the containerized generators that were brought earlier, who is bearing the cost of that, and who is bearing the cost of the 20 generators that just arrived? I see a lot of excitement from the public, but we're talking 20 megawatts. So given an elaboration of what 20 megawatts can power, why didn't the government, or have the government, approach APS or even Vedanova for a total guarantee on a loan instead of directly taking a loan? Also, wouldn't a guarantee on a loan rather than taking a loan itself help to avoid encumbering the government's finances and allow the government, and particularly the Minister of Rummy, to allocate funds towards housing projects and land? We hear the minister speak of the trust fund ending the housing projects, and while we have a national energy crisis, we have a national home crisis. With the CFC's oversight on borrowing, how can the government ensure that funds directed towards GB are managed effectively without risking any further financial constraints? You see, when the honorable colleague MPR Arian asked the Prime Minister today about BZK and their regulations, of course no agreement will be brought forward yet. But what I foresee is something particularly like the airport, where a CFO or someone will be requested. Why? What is the update with the management team of GEBE, the big Cs? When will they be placed? What is the plan? What are we waiting on? Because I can expect conditions. And if we're going to have conditions, how much of APS funds have been based abroad and direct? Because there's a proportion in APS regulations, through you, Madam Chair, that they're supposed to invest a certain amount abroad and invest a certain amount locally. 60% locally? Locally. So with that being said, I would like, well, if you can relay this to the relevant minister, to find out the amount that has been invested locally. Maybe we have enough, or they have sufficient to invest towards GEBE, whereby GEBE is a monopoly. So the problem is not recouping the funds. I want the public to realize that. The problem is mismanagement of funds while we are in this predicament. But GEBE, being a monopoly, will definitely recoup funds. Can the government ensure that funds used for GEBE needs are balanced with the investments and other vital areas, like same thing, housing, education, and considering our current financial constraints? We are in a bind. We see in the newspaper as it is projecting to lose 23 million this year and 19 million next year. The government is in no financial situation itself to play the hero. And I want us to ensure that we are not trying to play the hero, but take the best possible route. Why hasn't the government negotiated with banks to structure a loan with GB's assets as collaterals, which would avoid placing additional burden, again, on government and allowing projects, again, such as the KB Phase 1 to continue? There was one sustained by the legend Claude Watty. Nobody gonna come and take an airport, take a GB, or take a harbor. You can't take it up and go with it. Let us find means and ways that we can fix the problem while you, Honorable Minister of Rummy, can carry out your projects that is needed for this country. GEBE, yes, is a government-owned entity, but it's its own entity. And if we can find ways to access that, they can access their funds while we can have our funds allocated and carry out our projects, would be a win-win for this country. A definite win-win. I also would like to know